Today we're going to show you how to install the ZR1 Wing onto the C8 Z06. So let's get started with this video. So thanks for tuning in, guys. And like I said, we are going to be taking a look at installing the ZR1 Wing onto the C8 Z06. Now this install is going to look at just primarily the install process for the wing itself onto the C8 Z06. I actually have a couple of videos that show you how to remove the rear bumper, as well as how to install the understructure on here. So if you're looking for the entire process, it's a 3-part process. I'll have links in the description so you can check out how to get through this first and second part. This is gonna basically be part 3 of the video. Let me break down that part 1 and part 2 process first before we actually get into doing this wing real quick. So alrighty guys, so we have the understructure stuff already installed onto the car. Again, if you're looking for those particular videos, I have links to those videos in the description so you can check it out. But essentially, if you're looking in here, you have the understructure all set up and ready to go. You basically have 2 brackets behind this rear bumper. So you have one right here and then the other over here. And then I have already installed this rear plate that goes over essentially and covers up all the different holes, because this used to have a low wing spoiler on here before, which has holes going all along that. So this cover is actually like covering up all those holes, and it's already been put in place. And I did have that process kind of shown before, but the videos that I had before getting those video files unfortunately got corrupted. So I'm kind of working a little bit backwards here. I already had the wing installed and took it off so I could show you guys how that process is going to look like. So, but in any case, the process to actually put the understructure in here is the same as the Z07 wing, which is where I put that understructure in here. So it's all set up and ready to go. You have the brackets that are already installed in here. Again, if you are looking for the entire install process, including cutting out these holes that you need to do for this wing or the Z07 wing, they take the same holes. Like they're literally the same holes that you have to cut out. So that's the exact same process to go through it for both the Z07 wing and then this ZR1 wing. They take the same spots. So that's essentially what's going on, at least with this rear bumper. It's all set up and ready to go to receive that rear ZR1 wing. So, okay, moving on to the actual ZR1 wing here, we have a few things going on. First off, this ZR1 wing, when you get it installed, first off, this ZR1 wing, when you get it in the box, actually does not have these rear struts already installed. I actually have examples right here, some extra ZR1 struts that got delivered to me to kind of show you what this looks like. This is supposed to go essentially on here connected, and then there's basically 2 M6 bolts. There's essentially 2 M6 bolts that go through here, that go into this rear wing setup here, and then what I actually did on top of that is I actually used some JB weld right here to go all around the edges of the struts, just to give it a bit more structural rigidity. It's not the best job, as you can see. There's certain spots that got a little bit messed up because I didn't do a good job, at least evening it out. But essentially, you get the idea of what's going on with the JB weld. This is just some added extra rigidity on top of just having those hard, like those fasteners that go into the spot. So that's something just to consider. Another thing to consider, and actually I should mention it, EOS does provide you the hardware for doing that. I have the actual original hardware here. So they actually provide you the M6 bolts hardware, but I ended up using a different set of M6 ones because these are a little bit longer. So these M6 bolts here they go into the wing here, and then they also go into the substructure that's going to go through here. But the thing about it is that these are a little bit long, in my opinion. They're like 35 millimeters long or so. I ended up using 20 millimeters for the bolts that go into the wing, and that seemed to work out. Generally, you should be fine to use these, but I just trusted using my own hardware kind of deal. That's mostly with anything that I can just find these kind of bolts. You can find these at like Lowe's or Home Depot, and they worked really, really well in regards to I'm pointing at the actual hardware that they use, but these are the ones essentially that I use that are in black here. And another thing to keep in mind is that these screws that go into this strut here, they come in at an angle, and you have to use a wrench extender to actually get it in there. It's a little hard to actually get in there, and they're very, very tight fitting. So you have to be very, very careful you don't strip the nuts that's already built into this wing. If you do, then you're in for a world of hurt because you have to re-tap them, and that's just a process you just don't want to mess with. So just be very, very careful, go very slow, don't use any power tools, use hand tools, and just go really slow in putting these bolts in that go on the other side. So you can see on the spare strut that I have, you see where the holes are aligned right there. So this will go on here, and then you'll have the two bolts that go onto the actual piece. So I know this video is a little bit different than my usual how-tos in regards to I usually go really in depth. This one is a little bit on the lighter side because, again, I lost my video files that originally had me doing the entire install process, so I'm having to work a little bit backwards. But in any case, let me go continue on with what I got going on here. So the next important thing that you definitely need to have are these ZR1 specific brackets. Now these brackets go on to the actual rear bumper, and this is what attaches then to your ZR1, or then attached to your Z06 or your Stingray. So they'll bolt into the holes, the three holes that you have right here, with these three holes right here, and then the two holes on the side. That's what actually then attaches your wing to the structure. So, and that's pretty much what's going to be going on here. Now, again, these are ZR1 specific. You need these specific ZR1 brackets in order to do this install. You cannot use the Z07 brackets if you have a Z07 and you're converting to the other one. You need these specific ZR1 brackets. If you don't, when you try to install the other one, you're gonna have a giant gap that's just gonna look really ugly. It's not gonna look very professional, and it's not going to fit properly. So again, ZR1 brackets, you need to make sure you have these for your install. So, and that's essentially what's going on here. So these three bolts that I have here go to these three holes right here, and then these smaller bolts that I have go to the side holes here that then attach to your wing. And that's just basically my preference. Again, EOS provides all the hardware, but I just like using the black because then it also does match a little bit better with your carbon fiber ZR1 wing. So in any case, let me go ahead and show you that reinstall process. Okay, so installing this ZR1 bracket on here, you'll notice that it's not symmetrical in regards to how this bracket sits. It sits with this outer piece kind of at an angle, if I can get it focused on the camera a bit. But essentially you want it that the angle is going inside into the bumper, so it's going to be going like this onto here. I know I'm covering it with my hand, but essentially you're going to line up all three holes here and put in your bracket. So generally I usually just go finger tight first just to get this in there, and then I'll go ahead and tighten it after all three bolts are kind of installed. All right, now I'm going to actually install it. Generally, I mean, I give it a good few turns. I'm not cranking down on it. You don't need to crank down hard on these, just enough to actually get them in there and secured. And that's on there, that's not going anywhere. Okay, let's do the other side. All right, putting the bracket in there. If you're wondering, I have masking tape over here just to protect from when I put these bolts onto the side when I'm installing the wing. Just having some masking tape here just helps prevent you from, you know, taking your tool and scuffing the actual scuffing the actual carbon fiber topping right here. So it just makes it like a little easier, and that you're not going to scratch anything by accident. Let's go ahead and tighten this down. Again, it doesn't need to be excessive. You're not cranking down on these. These are aluminum pieces, so you want to get them secure, but not all the way. And probably, honestly, you could probably use some blue Loctite on these, and that would probably be the way to go on these in regards to getting them secure on there. That's looking good. Alrighty, so now we are at a point that we can install the ZR1 Wing. And so, as you can see, I'm bringing it into shot right here. And the initial thing with this is first making sure that you align the holes together and aligning the pieces. And then from there, actually installing them all in. And another thing I should have mentioned before is with using these screws here, I do use some washers just to make sure that it's not just screw to carbon fiber, that there's a washer in between. So I highly suggest having some washers kind of in play as well when you're putting these in. So yeah, this you gotta just have some patience with, because they are not the easiest to get installed and trying to have everything line up. So it's a little bit of back and forth. You want to try to tighten these by hand first, or at least get them on the actual holes first before you actually try to tighten them down, because you can easily cross thread these, because these are aluminum brackets. So something to kind of keep in mind when you're doing this. Definitely want to take your time with this. Again, I should probably be using Loctite, but I'll come back and put Loctite in a second once I get these holes in there kind of lined up. It's a little bit easier if you have an extra set of hands, like one to kind of hold it as you're putting these on. So it's something to keep in mind as well. And the big thing is you don't want to over torque these, because you are sandwiching carbon fiber and aluminum together. So don't crank down on it. You don't want to split the actual carbon fiber bracket itself going through this, but you do want this tight enough. And there you have it, guys. You have the ZR1 Wing installed onto the Z06. Now again, I do apologize that this is not as detailed and thorough as usually my how-to videos. If you have questions that you want a little bit more details about, feel free to comment it down below so I can help you out with that. But with that being said, I think that is going to wrap up today's video. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please check out any of my other videos. We'll see you next time. Take care, guys.